let me be clear. There is no justification for this. None. Violence like this is no way to honor religion or faith. And as long as there are those who would take innocent life in the name of God, the world will never know a true and lasting peace.
We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act, and make no mistake, justice will be done.
Welcome to Opinion Journal Live. I'm Mary Kissel. That was Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and President Obama today condemning the killing of U.S. Ambassador to Libya Christopher Stevens and 3 of his American colleagues in Benghazi on Tuesday. We expressed condolences to the family and their friends. Joining me now to discuss this, what can only be called shocking incident, is Global Affairs columnist Bret Stephens. Bret, we haven't had an ambassador killed in the line of duty since 1979.
Right, in Afghanistan.
Do we know who mounted this attack? Or
no,
why?
I don't think we're entirely clear, at least the one in Libya. I would say that we should be paying every bit as much attention to the near attack on our embassy in Cairo as we are to the one in Libya. I think we're trying to figure that out. The suspicions obviously go to Salafist groups that have been operating relatively freely in Libya. The Libyan government was very quick to condemn it unequivocally. It's a weak government. It has serious internal governance issues, which it has recognized, but it is at least fairly safe to say right now that this is not an attack that had government involvement or collusion or was the result of anything except for a very weak state trying to get up off from its knees.
You mentioned the siege of our embassy in Cairo. That was several hundred people.
Right.
Were those coordinated attacks, and did the government of Egypt condemn those attacks?
Right. Well, again, it seems we're trying to figure out exactly who acted and how and when. Because at least reports I have seen indicate that while these Salafists and hooligans and combination of the two were breaching the embassy, there were Egyptian riot police more or less milling around. Now, the new president of Egypt, an Islamist, Mohamed Morsi, has talked about the need for Egypt to respect the security of governments. But very quickly, don't forget that in 1979 in Tehran, it wasn't the new regime of Khomeini who took the embassy, it was the students. And so the kind of use of these ambiguous groups that may or may not be connected to government has a pedigree. I'm not saying that's what's happening in Egypt, but it's something to remember.
Bret, there's been a lot of debate back here in the United States today about the Obama administration's initial reaction to the events in Cairo, so before we learned of these horrible killings in Libya. I think we've got a quote we'll put up here on the screen. I'll just read you a little bit of it. The Embassy of the U.S. in Cairo condemns the continuing efforts by misguided individuals to hurt the religious feelings of Muslims. Bret, State later put out a stronger statement. Some of the original tweets from the embassy were deleted. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird that the instinct of the United States is to apologize for the fact that we have free speech here in the U.S. And, Mohamed Morsi, the Egyptian president, made some statement about the need for the U.S. government to condemn or penalize this film that hardly anyone, if anyone, has seen.
This is the film that's supposedly
called The Innocence of Bin Laden. The identity of the filmmaker remains a real mystery. I'm looking into that, as a matter of fact, now. But it's interesting that Mohamed Morsi, who spent years in California as a teacher in one of the UC colleges, forgot we have this thing called the First Amendment. You would hope that at least American officials wouldn't forget, and that our instinct wouldn't be to apologize for the fact that someone somewhere in the United States may be exercising the right to speak freely and even offensively.
Bret, we have less than a minute left. Amid all of this, you have to throw into the mix the refusal of President Obama to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, yet another message to Iran and to radical Islamists. What message does that send?
I think there's a general perception that America is in retreat, that America won't stand up to enemies, and that America won't really stand up for friends. And that's really the sort of broader context in which these attacks are happening. I mean, look, you can't fault the Obama administration for our embassy, for our ambassador. Certainly you cannot fault them at all for what happened in Libya. But it is a fact that there is a sense that it's open season on American interests and perhaps on American personnel. And the message to Israel is also, you guys are on your own too, because we're getting out of the Middle East as quickly as we can.
Well, it looks like foreign policy just became part of our presidential debate as well.
It seems so.
Global Affairs columnist Bret Stephens, thank you so much for joining us.